we spend so much time feeling stuck in the lives that we have when we can change it. Double down on how amazing you are and not let people make you feel less than. Knowing your gifts and owning your gifts is important. Don't be shy about saying, I am amazing at this thing. It does nobody any favors for you to diminish yourself. None. How often have we said no to yes things that could transform our lives? Hi, this is Luvvie, and you're listening to Dreams and Drive.
This week's episode of Dreams and Drive is brought to you by Charmin. Charmin has long-lasting mega rolls that aim to give you a better bathroom experience. Those who use Charmin really enjoy the go. Hey, Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 259 of the Dreams and Drive podcast. And today our guest is award-winning author, podcast host, and speaker, Luvvie Ajayi Jones. And we are going to be talking to her about what it means to be a professional troublemaker and how we all can fight fair. I am excited for you all to hear from Luvvie today as she talks about her latest book, Professional Troublemaker, the Fair Fighter Manual. I'm excited for you guys all to hear her dream driving journey and just how she was able to be a professional troublemaker in her own life and fight fair and write this amazing book that teaches us how we can do so in our own lives. If you enjoy this episode, I'm going to ask that you please make sure that you're sharing it with your own community. We can be found across the board on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Dreams and Drive, and use the hashtag Dreams and Drive when sharing. I love when you guys are posting and tagging us, so make sure that you don't forget to do that with this episode as well. It's a shorter one, but it's filled with so many nuggets, so many gems, so you're going to want to make sure to share. If you want to join our weekly newsletter, The Keys, you can sign up at dreamsanddrive.com/join. That's dreamsanddrive.com/join. And if you want to cop some Dreams and Drive merchandise, we still have Dreams and Drive t-shirts and crew neck sweatshirts available. Just go to dreamsanddrive.com/shop. That's dreamsanddrive.com/shop. All right, let's hear from Luvvie.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I am super excited. You know how you've always had like a wish list of guests that you wanted to be on your show? When it finally happens, you're kind of just in like another, just so happy that it's actually coming true.
Yes. And I'm glad I could say yes. I'm glad I could make time and that you wanted me on your podcast. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So I love to dive. I like to go back in time for our first, for the first question. I think it's always important to reflect on where we came from, right? In order to think about where we are now. So what was inspiring the young Luvvie, right? If I had to say 8-year-old, 9-year-old Luvvie was inspired by blank, what would that be?
I was inspired by the world. I think I've always been an observer of the world and of the things around me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What was there anything that what was the dream for young Luvvie as a kid? What was it that you thought your life was going to be like as an adult?
I thought I was going to be a doctor as a kid. I was like bookish. I was smart. And a lot of people would be like, oh my God, you're going to be a doctor. And I was like, yeah, I want to help the world. Then I thought doctor was going to be the way to do it. And it's something that I actually held on to for a while. I think I even thought I would be pre-med in college. And when I started college, I was pre-med. Then I got a D in chemistry my freshman year, my first semester. And I instantly killed the dream. I was like, yeah, I'm not supposed to be a doctor. I don't even like hospitals. So you know what? Let's kill it. But yeah, doctor was the dream. And I think it's good that I did not become a doctor. I'd be the worst doctor ever.
Could you imagine that? It's funny because I know a lot of people who, unfortunately, like one of my good friends from college, she is now a doctor, but she hates it. But I think she feels like she put in too much work or too much time. And it's kind of scary to think that there are people who are doing what they do that don't even like it. Like, would you want a doctor operating on you who hates what he or she does?
Right. But, again, we'll look up and be like, oh, I'm too far gone. I have to stick to this. No, you don't. No, you don't. You have the rest of your life. So whether or not you love what you're doing, it's never too late to pivot. So that's why I'm like, I would have been a horrific doctor because I would have hated it. I don't like blood. I don't like hospitals. And that's what I'm saying is we spend so much time feeling stuck in the lives that we have when we can change it. The fact that if she hates being a doctor, is she going to spend the next 20 years hating what she's doing? I don't wish that for anybody. And I think it's something that we need to actually make it a point to be like, you know what? Yes, I know I've spent a lot of time doing this. I know I've put in a lot of money, but you know what? That time, that money was for you to understand that that wasn't the path for you to go. It wasn't a waste of time. You just got redirected. Now you should be clearer than ever about what you want to do.
Exactly. So let's tell our dream drivers who may not know your story a little bit about what happened once you decided that, hey, pre-med isn't for me. What was the game plan that you set on once you decided to give up the doctor dreams?
I still thought I was going to be going to grad school because I thought I was going to be a psychologist. So my major was psychology pre-med, but I dropped that pre-med piece after I got the D. I was like, I'll focus on psychology because I actually do love psychology. I'm so interested in how people are, how people think, how people move, how it changes them in some way, right? Like what causes us to do the things that we do. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna stick to psychology. But I also started blogging that year because my friends peer pressured me into blogging. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna start a blog. But ultimately, I never stopped and I just fell in love with it. And it is something that it wasn't strategic, right? Like it wasn't like I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this thing and this thing will come from it. I just committed to doing what felt real. I committed to moving forward and just being like, what do I feel like doing? I felt like writing, so I would write.
Was writing one of like, if you think back now as a kid, was writing a talent that you always had, but you never really took seriously? Or was it something that you just fell into?
I think I fell into it. Okay. But the thing is, like, as I went through school, I didn't have to try too hard and I'd get A's on my papers, right? Like I didn't have to necessarily strive to do well in English. I was in honors English in high school. I was, it just came so seamlessly to me. But you don't give it credence because you're like, oh, surely that can't just be it, right? That can't be it. But when I graduated from college with my degree in psychology, my bachelor's of sciences in psychology, I basically went into marketing because I also fell in love with marketing in college. So got a marketing coordinator job. And then at nighttime, I'd be blogging. I'd come home and write. It was just something that I felt like doing, something that was fun. It wasn't with an idea that it was going to give me this big thing. And it basically just kind of opened doors. More and more people started reading my blog and passing it on and being like, oh my gosh. And then the blog won an award. My first award was in 2009. And it was for Best Humor Blog in the Black Weblog Awards. So it was like it kept on moving purely because I was doing it from authenticity in the way that was most true. I was writing honestly, and people were like, oh my God, I feel that, I see that. Yeah, it just took on a life of its own. And then 2010, I got laid off my full-time job as a marketing coordinator. I just haven't had a chance I basically never got a chance to get another job because it was basically the universe being like, we got you. This is what you're supposed to be doing. Now focus.
You know what, though? I want to talk about this experience really quickly. So, guys, Luvvie just dropped a new book called Professional Troublemaker, The Fair Fighter Manual. And in the book, Luvvie, you mentioned how you did get a job for a day, right? And then you were like, this is not for me. Why do you think realizing things are not for you are so pivotal to the dream driving journey and being a fair fighter?
Yeah. I think knowing what is not for you is just as important as knowing what isn't. Like what is, because sometimes the thing that happens is we get overwhelmed by choice. I could do this thing. I can also do this thing. And I also can do this thing. Well, can you? Being clear about what you don't need to be doing narrows the field. It narrows the field. It tells you that, okay, that's not the way to go. So now I can scratch that off as an option. It's a gift to be pivoted, to get a new direction and know that, well, okay, that wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. We spend a lot of time wondering, like, what am I supposed to be doing? What's the stuff that you already know is not for you?
Exactly. And I think that experience, when people read the book, they'll really understand how we all will have those moments in our life where you have to make the decision to choose yourself, right?
Yes.
And then things kind of just line up, because then you're like, all right, I'm going to focus on me. And look, it's 2021 and you're on your second book. So let's talk about the idea of being a professional troublemaker. Why that title? That's such an interesting, thought-provoking professional troublemaker. What the heck is that, right? Tell us a little bit about why the word troublemaker is so important.
Yeah, I think troublemaking gets a bad rap. To make trouble is to disrupt a room for the greater good. To make trouble is to say the thing that goes against the grain that usually is necessary. And I think we need to honor it. We need to celebrate it instead of silencing it. We need to give it so much, we need to give it more credence. I wanted to call it that because I am one. I am a troublemaker. I'm somebody who I hope I'm in the world elevating the rooms that I'm in and the spaces that I'm in. And I hope that other people know that if there are troublemakers around you, celebrate them, because they're the ones who make sure, when your uncle makes a terrible joke at dinner, they're like, yeah, no, that's not cool. They're the ones who will call out an idea that's not great, that's not smart, that's not thoughtful. They're the ones who are the friends who will tell you, hey, we should have a tough conversation. You hurt my feelings. So where you can save the friendship, as opposed to all of a sudden, oh my God, we don't talk anymore because we drifted apart. No, somebody's feelings was hurt who didn't say something. So I think it's really important for us to celebrate professional troublemakers. And then if you are one, to know that even when people try to silence you, that your words are valid, that your action is necessary, that we need you to agitate rooms where things are not okay. And I wanted to name this book that because, yes, it is time for us to be celebrated.
This episode of Dreams in Drive is brought to you by Charmin Dream Drivers. Those who use Charmin really enjoy the go. And as you guys know, Charmin has a variety of products to satisfy your to-go needs. So what are we talking about? We're talking about our bathroom experience. That's the one thing that we all Dream Drivers have in common. All of us at one time or another have the need to go. So why not enjoy the go with Charmin? Guys, softness matters. I don't know about you, but me at home in the bathroom, I want to make sure that I'm getting that soft experience. And Charmin has a variety of products that makes your to-go experience that much better. So there's Charmin Ultra Soft, which is irresistible cushiony softness. There's Charmin Ultra Strong for superior strength and absorbency. I have a baby now, so I love wipes. You can try their Charmin flushable wipes and get the freshest clean Charmin has. And don't forget Charmin's long-lasting mega rolls. Overall, Charmin aims to give you a better bathroom experience. At Charmin, they believe that won't happen if you finish it all off with the wrong toilet paper, which is why they make toilet paper that's just right for everybody. So Dream Drivers, try Charmin and enjoy a better bathroom experience. Exactly. And I think as Dream Drivers, right, one of the biggest things, I've interviewed a lot of people, and you always think the things that will get in the way of you putting your dreams into drive are tactical things, right? Like, oh, I don't know how to set up a website. Those are never the things. It's always the intangible, fighting fear, doubt, things like that. So the things that you mentioned in this book, especially, I love when you talk about don't be afraid to be too much. Why is being too much why is that important to putting one's dreams into motion?
Yeah, usually when people accuse us of being too something, it's because they want us to be less. They want us to be less than. And it's easier to say you're too this than to say I need you to be less. So that thing that they're usually accusing us that we are too is usually our superpower. Those of us who've been called, oh my God, you talk too much. Well, we end up making an amazing life as speakers. Right? We end up being incredible keynoters. We end up writing amazing books. And imagine if we actually internalized it and said, I will be less of what I am. It will silence our voices. It means some of the favorite books in the world would not exist. This book would not exist. So you have to give yourself permission to be too much. If it's not harming anybody else and people are just saying it because they want you to somehow not be that person, you have to not internalize it.
Exactly. And another thing that you mentioned, I think that goes along with that is owning your dopeness. A lot of us are really dope, right? And we never tell anyone what we're up to. We're scared to put ourselves out there. What tips would you have for the dream driver who doesn't know how to own their dopeness yet?
You have to make the decision to kind of double down on yourself once again. Double down on how amazing you are and not let people make you feel less than. Like, if you are the person who's an amazing speaker, for example, start practicing that so you feel more comfortable. So when you get on the stage, you kill it and you don't think I'm going to bomb. Oh my gosh. I think knowing your gifts and owning your gifts is important. Don't feel shy about speaking them up. Don't be shy about saying, I am amazing at this thing. And I would love to do it as a form of service. Don't be afraid of constantly bigging yourself up, because diminishing yourself does nobody any favors. It does nobody any favors for you to diminish yourself. None.
No, keep going. I'm sorry. I was gonna tell you a little example there. I know personally for me, one of the things I had to really get used to was my voice. And for a long time, people would say, I used to think I had the weirdest voice, right? And then one of my past guests was like, yo, Raina, you have such a unique voice. You need to trust your dopeness, right? And ever since then, I really was instead of telling myself, Raina, your voice is weird, right? I would always say your voice is unique. So that's something that I really resonated with in your book.
Absolutely. Your voice is unique.
Thank you. One of the things that you also mentioned that I think was really interesting is the things that you have challenges with, right? And for you, one of the things was asking for help, right? Why for you was that so difficult?
I mean, because, we often think we have to do everything ourselves. Oh, I should be able to do it myself. Why? There's only so much time in every day. Then we feel guilty that we didn't get everything we had on our list done. Who has time to get all of those things done? We attach a lot of guilt to needing help. I think about the superwoman syndrome that a lot of us will have, that we've been told we must do everything ourselves. And how often do we end up burning out trying to do it all? That's exhausting. So I'm like, let's not have to do it all. Let's get used to saying, hey, I need your help. Let's be able to say that without thinking we are not enough.
Is there anything that you're personally struggling with now as you're building this next stage of your journey?
Just making sure that I have the structure around me, making sure that I have the capacity to handle anything that's thrown my way is something that I'm constantly plugged into and trying to figure out and staying on top of. So honestly, I usually create the work that I want and I need. And for me, what that looks like is this type of book. This book is a reminder to me to do all those things I'm telling everybody else to do, to be too much, to fire yourself, to build that amazing squad. Yeah, I think we all, again, fear is something that is a constant struggle. You don't just conquer it one time and all of a sudden you'll never be afraid of anything again and everything will be easy. No, it's a constant, because when you have figured out one thing, other things get thrown into the mix. So I'm constantly also tackling fear and making real decisions to be intentional about going towards the thing that make me uncomfortable.
During the process of writing this book, what was one of the biggest hurdles or biggest fears, doubts that you personally had to get over?
I think about my TED Talk, how I almost did not do it because I was afraid. I thought I was going to bomb. I thought I wasn't ready. Again, at that point, I'd been speaking professionally for 8 years. There was no reason for me to think I wasn't ready. But we'll get in our heads, right? We'll get in our heads and convince ourselves that we haven't done enough to be worthy of an opportunity. And I think in those moments, really kind of checking ourselves lovingly and being like, you got this. You've been doing this. You are ready for this. This is what you're supposed to do for the next level up. And that fear of, it's really fear of failure and disappointment will often keep us from saying yes from no opportunities. And honestly, that's what convicted me to write this book too, because if I didn't do that TED Talk, imagine what I would have missed out on. I would have missed out on even writing this book. I would have missed out on all the people who've emailed me and said what it did for them. It had me wondering, like, how often have we done that? How often have we said no to yes things that could transform our lives?
Yep. And, I think on the flip side of that is also the fear of success, right? And I used to tell people this all the time, like, personally, I feared success, and they're like, Raina, that's not even real, right? But I think that it really is real. People are out here who are scared of what will happen if you make it. I used to ask myself, and I don't know if you ever felt like this, what if things go really well, right? Will I be able to handle that? Has that been something you've had to navigate?
Absolutely. And fear of success is absolutely real. It is so real because, you wonder whether you have what it takes to handle the level up. You wonder if you have what you need to not be stressed out by these new blessings, right? One of my friends was telling me this, like, the work doesn't necessarily just come in the sowing season. It comes in harvest. It's like, all right, you plant all these trees and a whole lot of fruit comes from it. But then you worry, can I even pick all the fruits? What if they drop on the floor and I don't get to them early enough? All of that.
Right. And then it's like, what do you do with that? But it's something that I think once you tell yourself, like, I think it goes back to being anxious. They always say, like, anxious is the fear of things. The quote that I'm thinking of, like, how anxiety is really just you fearing things that haven't happened yet sometimes. It's like reimagining or saying that personal mantra to yourself of you can do it and that you'll be able to navigate it once once it comes. It's something that I know Malik is one of your good friends. She always has this quote that I'll never forget. You are not a tree, right? And if I always tell myself that, like, when things if it just so happens that things don't work out, you can always pivot, right? You can always switch. You're not tethered to anything. So that's been something that I've personally used when I've feared success.
Absolutely. You're not a tree. You are not a tree. It's like Marie Forleo's book, Everything's Figure Outable. Exactly. As the levels change, you change with it. You evolve with it. You grow with it. And you just have to trust that there's something waiting for you, that the opportunities presented to you are because you are uniquely ready for it. And yes, maybe it does stretch you. Maybe it does cause growing pains because that's because you're ready to grow. And wherever you were is no longer for you. So you got to take the opportunity to grow.
Exactly. So, as we're winding down, Luvvie, let's talk a little bit about Professional Troublemaker. What can our listeners, what do you think people will walk away from really getting once they finish reading this book?
I think this book will loan you courage. I think this book will let you see that you are not alone in this world that is asking you to cower, right? Like, there's so many of us who get these messages that we're not enough. And I hope this book is the book that tells you, listen, you have it. You have exactly what you need. You are enough just like you are today. I want this book to be the verbal, you got this. Ask for that raise. Have that tough conversation. Do that thing. Dream and have that wild dream on your list, your bucket list of stuff to do. And that's what I want people to do, because that's how I like to show up in the world. And I'm hoping I'm constantly loaning people power.
Exactly. And there's one thing that after reading it, that I really just want to take some time to talk about is just how powerful the influence of your grandmother was. When reading it, it was so beautiful to just see how much she influenced your life and how much love you had for her and how much she was an anchor for who you are today, right? What's one thing that if you could say to her that you would want to say to her about how much she has had an influence over your ability to put your dreams into motion?
Honestly, simply thank you. She really was light for me. She gave me the permission I needed. She was somebody who really showed me what it was like to be a fierce woman and still be loved for it. Yeah, just thank you.
So you can't be a dream driver without your keys to success, right, Luvvie? So tell us 3 things that you think every dream driver needs in their toolkit before they hit the road.
I think every dream driver needs some red lipstick. It's you put it on red lipstick and you're like, I can take on the world. I'm good. For me, it's my version of security blanket.
Yes, my favorite is Boss Lady. But
Boss
Melissa,
Lady, yep. That is one of my absolute faves. That is absolutely one of my faves. I think every dream driver needs permission. They need to give themselves permission to dream and dream big. Every dream driver needs a favorite book.
What's your favorite book right now?
Besides mine, honestly, mine is probably my favorite book right now. And I know you're not supposed to say that, but I'm going to say it.
Now you can say that.
Professional Troublemaker is my favorite book right now because I do think it's a book that is going to transform people's lives.
Yeah, and I love just how much you infuse your personal story into it. And, I was talking to one of my best friends. I have a Nigerian best friend, right? So I'm like, Listen, everything she said is so true. You need yourself a Nigerian friend.
You do.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Luvvie. This has been so amazing. And where can our dream drivers get Professional Troublemaker if they want to add it to their personal collection?
Yes, you can get Professional Troublemaker everywhere books are sold. Amazon, Barnes & Noble's, Target, independent bookstores in your area. And I also have the audiobook. I recorded it myself. It's available on Audible, but the book is everywhere books are sold.
All right. Well, thank you again, Luvvie.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so that wraps up episode 259 with Luvvie. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you're sharing with your community. I love when you guys are posting to Instagram stories, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever you are. Make sure you're tagging us. We are Dreams and Drive across the board, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And use the hashtag Dreams and Drive when sharing as well. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, any of the podcast apps, make sure that you are subscribed so that you get notifications every time we have a new episode. And guys, if you want to cop some Dreams and Drive merchandise, we have t-shirts and crew neck sweatshirts available just in time for spring. Go to dreamsanddrive.com/shop. That's dreamsanddrive.com/shop. And if you want to get our weekly newsletter, The Keys, you can sign up at dreamsanddrive.com/join. That's dreamsanddrive.com/join. And don't forget, guys, I am still always looking for new guests to be featured on the show. If you want to be in my little black book, make sure you sign up at the dreamsanddrive.com/pitch site. That's dreamsanddrive.com/pitch. I'm always going through to see what people are pitching, dream drivers that may be interesting to connect to. So make sure that you sign up at dreamsanddrive.com/pitch to be added to our Dreams and Drive possible guest network. All right. As always, keep dreaming, keep driving, and we'll chat again in episode 260. Bye, guys.